And there's some shocking new video to show you now of the moment the quake hit Kathmandu. And we need to warn you that you may find some of this vision disturbing. You can see here people walking and riding on a busy street as the shaking begins. And just as people start to realise what's happening and run, a tall gate comes crashing down onto the street. A man on a motorised cart appears to jump away in time, but others disappear in the cloud of dust, knocked down by the debris. And despite so much loss and heartache, there have been some remarkable tales of survival. For more on this, Sumnima Udas joins us now from Kathmandu. And Sumnima, one baby whose discovery has been hailed a miracle was rescued at least 22 hours after the quake. How is that baby boy doing?
That's right, Lynda. Incredible stories of survival are emerging now. That baby boy is actually in stable condition and doctors say he has no internal injuries. The way he was rescued is quite interesting as well. He was buried for about 22 hours after the quake in the heritage town of Bhaktapur. And the Nepali army had been searching around for quite a bit. They presumed he was dead, and then they started to hear him cry. And that's when they went there and rescued him. Another story of survival that's just emerged, and perhaps even a more remarkable one, is a man who survived after 80 hours under rubble. Normally people say that after 72 hours it's very difficult to find anyone alive. So this is a miracle, if you will, in some sense. And again, this was conducted by the Nepali army and also a French group. They were using specialized techniques to detect signs of life, and when they did, this had to dig for about 10 hours to pull him out.
Certainly is absolutely incredible, and no doubt gives some hope to people still looking for survivors. Now, you've flown over some of the outlying regions. Talk us through the devastation you saw. Given it's your homeland, it must have been especially hard to see.
That's right. It's only when you really go outside of Kathmandu, across the sort of mountains that surround this valley, that you really get a sense of how big this is, the magnitude of this earthquake, really. Once you cross over, you start seeing, the entire villages flattened. These are small villages, of course, on top of hills and mountains, but still completely flattened. And you also get a sense, once you cross over, of why it is so difficult to conduct this kind of relief and rescue operation. The terrain is very, very inaccessible. The homes built very high up, and it's also a very spread out area. This is why it's been so difficult to get into Kathmandu. Nepal's only international airport has a single runway, chock-a-block. And this is why I've always feared what a strong earthquake would do to this city I call home. A maze of narrow, long houses so crammed, the United Nations warned in 2012 that Nepal is a disaster waiting to happen. As we traverse the mountains that encircle Kathmandu Valley, the enormous challenges rescue and relief convoys face becomes clear. From up here you can see why it's so difficult to get relief into these parts of Nepal. The terrain is so mountainous, the homes built so high up and so spread out. So many homes and farmlands devastated, along with livelihoods. Landslides blocking national highways.
We've flown for 45 minutes now, and you see almost every village has been affected. This is the time to go out and save lives. Please remember, we are not an outside force that has been parachuted into an area to help. We are victims ourselves. We are headed to Dunche, one of the worst affected areas in northern Nepal. But the weather turns.
We're having to turn back now because it's going to start raining soon. And the captain here says he will not be able to land. So we're headed towards a different direction now. We make a pit stop at a community hospital. 6 different districts are being brought to this community hospital. Normal capacity here, doctors say, is about 375, and already there are 1,000 people here. And while we've been here, almost every other minute, more and more patients are being brought in. They're running short of supplies, but doctors say they can't discharge those who've recovered because they have no home to go to.
Our resources are limited, but still, like our human resources, space, the medical supplies and our power backup, everything is limited. But we are trying to stretch everything as much as possible to provide the care to each and every patient to save their life.
This is a country reeling politically, economically, and now this. What gives me hope is the resilience of the people, though. People here already deal with so much hardship, whether you talk about 18 to 20-hour power cuts a day, even in Kathmandu Valley, whether you talk about just extreme levels of poverty, whether you talk about a fractured political environment. But still, people figure things out. They persevere in the most difficult of times. And deep inside, I know Nepal will bounce back. And things are coming together here in Kathmandu. People are starting to move back to their homes, although you do still see tents around the city. But, you know, you see traffic again. The shops are slowly starting to open. So things are coming together. Of course, in rural Nepal, you know, it's still a very dire situation. But we were at the army base here, and we saw at least 350 people being rescued today and arriving at that base. So slowly but surely, you know, things will pick up. Lynda.
Good, that's good to hear. And we hope more aid can get there soon. Sumnima, Udas, thank you very much for your reporting.